Hi, this video is just continuing on from the last video. In this one, we want to look at how we might go about adding a ceiling into our drawing. So previously, up until this point, we're at a position where we've chose a drawing to use for our building. We've also learned how to import that into CAD using the correct scaling factor where required. So if you're comfortable with that first part, what you should have is something like this, where you have a CAD drawing pulled into Revit like so. So in this one, I think the drawing I'm using is the FOSS example building from the list of building service drawings. But I've already gone ahead and started building some of the construction elements on top of this already. So in this view, I just have the walls, windows, and doors hidden, but you can view them here directly as a plan. So you'll see that they'll highlight as I go over them. And to kind of show you a 3D version of that, this is what my building looks like at this stage. Okay, so if we highlight everything in that drawing and filter, we can see that the only thing that's actually selected in the drawing is doors, walls, and windows, because that's the only thing I've added to the drawing. But for the purposes of this assignment, it's going to be very beneficial to have a ceiling included inside your building, basically for the mounting of devices like smoke detectors and sirens and sounders, to have somewhere to actually mount them. Because as it stands, we just have walls and doors and windows in this building. So to go through that, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add an additional level to the drawing. So by default, there's two levels, level 0 and level 1. So I've copied the elevation views here from the electrical template up here, so we can view a north and an eastern side of the building. But what you'll see here is that the two default levels that come in are level 1 and level 0. Now, if these are set up properly and you have your walls adjusted to these, we can change the level value for the height of the level out at this part. And why this is very useful is that we can adjust the height of multiple elements that are linked to the level. So for instance, I've just changed the height of every wall in that building by just changing one value here. I'll leave it at 4,000, the default. So we're going to do something similar, but we're going to have a ceiling level added in here. And the purpose of having that ceiling level added in is that it basically allows us to make sure our ceilings stay at one height, and then we can automatically snap different devices to that ceiling level. So if we're in an architectural view, and especially in elevation, underneath the architecture tab, we'll see that level is one of the options over here. So you can either click level or press LL to create a new level. So move my cursor over, start where I want to start it, drag it across, and it defaults then to level 3 because it's the third level that's been created. What I'm actually going to do with that is I'm going to change the name of this one to ceiling, and I'm going to put it at, for now, let's say 3,500. This can change depending on what you're doing. So this is just marking that a level exists. There is actually no ceiling in yet, it's just a level. So you'll see if we go back to the 3D drawing, still no ceiling, but just a new level has been created. So it just makes it easier for the next part. So at this point, we want to add a ceiling in. So I'm going to go back to my plan drawing, zoom fit with ZF so we can see the entire building. And underneath architecture, you'll see eventually there's an option for ceiling. And when you select ceiling, it'll either do an automatic sketching, which is if we zoom in on a particular room, it recognizes that there's 4 walls and goes, okay, I want to place a ceiling in this perimeter here. You can do it that way, which is very, very acceptable. Or you can sketch a ceiling where you literally sketch out around the building's walls and put the ceiling in those locations. This is actually quite useful different for irregular shapes or if you want to do the whole building at once. But for the purpose of this example, I'm going to put a ceiling in automatically for a number of rooms just so we can see the difference when it happens. So on my drawing, we have this workshop 1. I'm going to put in a ceiling here. And I'm also going to put one in workshop 2. And I'm going to put one in this corridor and these 3 classrooms. Okay. Now you may have heard some errors there, but the errors come up are basically just saying that we can't view ceilings in this current view, the lighting, floor plan, architectural. That's okay. So what you will see is that in the 3D view, the ceilings have actually been created. So there's ceilings in all of these locations here. The only issue is if we select one of the ceilings, it's currently set to be referenced off level 0, which in our case is 0 meters above ground, and offset to be a height of 2.4 meters or 2,400 millimeters. But we can adjust that to make sure that it sticks to the ceiling level that we've actually created. So we can adjust them all at once if we want to do that. If I select all the items in the drawing, filter, and unselect everything that's not a ceiling, you can see now I'm left with all my ceiling objects have been selected. And rather than having it constrained to level 1, let's constrain it to the ceiling. And if we apply that, we'll see, okay, it does that, but for some reason the ceiling is now way above our walls, which we're not expecting. The issue being that there's still an offset from the level from the last setting. So set that offset to 0. And now we have our ceilings installed and they're being set off of the ceiling level that we created. The advantage of that is if I zoom in on my ceiling and change the value, let's say 3000, all the ceilings in the drawing will move down because they're all linked to that one level. So it just makes it easier for doing an overall drawing. The other thing that's very useful for this is that a ceiling view is created for different aspects of the drawing. So along here we have ceiling for lighting or ceiling for power. If I view the ceiling, this is very useful because what we're going to see in the next video is that this shows us where ceilings have been created, it's the grid, but then gives us a very nice way to snap items to this grid and to make sure that they're mounted on the ceiling and not mounted in the wrong place. So just to recap on that, we're in a position now where we've imported our CAD drawing from our chosen building, built the construction elements of it, walls, doors, windows, added ceilings by making sure we put in a ceiling level as well beforehand. And that'll set you up then for placing elements afterwards. Okay, thank you.